26, 2012. Again, I'm in with George Zimmerman in an interview room with the Sanford Police Department. You still have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney and all this, all what I spoke to you earlier about. Would you still continue to talk to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just want to ask you a few more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the neighborhood.
And this is when you've gotten a Google map?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us how you got that Google map. Everybody knows about Google, but you actually went on the computer.
I went on the computer and I typed Retreat View Circle, I believe is the search. And when it showed it, I printed the page.
Okay. All right. And in terms, did you actually use that to actually have him draw what's going on?
Yes, as he would tell me, I would have him make markings on the map itself with a pen to show locations he's referring to.
Okay.
We're talking about, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you put an X on here where you first saw the guy?
Right about here.
Okay, right about there. Okay, and this is the entrance, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just highlight that. Okay, this is where you first saw him. Okay, and then you're driving. Where were you when you saw him there?
I was driving around here in this direction.
Okay, this is where your car was. Okay. Can you just write car right there? Okay. And then you saw him here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then where do you go from there? This is where you start. When do you start calling the police? Where are you?
I pulled in front of the clubhouse.
Okay. Did you pass him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So he was here and you passed him and went over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Put an X there. That's where. Just put 911 because that's where you were when you called 911.
Well, it was the non-emergency one.
Okay. Well, that's where you called the police,
yes,
right? Okay. Okay. And then he's behind you. He's still over here, correct? Because you pass him.
Right.
Okay, you pass him, and this is where he's looking at the houses. Okay. And then, where do you go when you realize, you said he comes and he circles your car?
No, ma'am. I lost contact of him as I was trying to get through because you have to...
So does he continue past you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he continues past you and you lose sight of him over here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just draw an arrow where he continues to pass you.
He continues to pass me through here, and then he goes down here. You want me to...
And then he goes somewhere here where you can't see him?
Correct.
So just go to about where you think he might have been to where you lose sight of him.
He started going here and then behind these houses.
Okay, and you can see that from here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then when he gets behind the houses, you lose sight?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said at some point he comes back and circles your car? Has he already done that?
He looked into my vehicle,
okay,
but he didn't circle it at that point in time.
Okay. When does he come? You're still in the car talking to 911, right?
I'm trying to get through.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point you said he comes back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you lose sight of him back here and then he returns?
I know. I drive my car up here.
Okay, so move your vehicle up to there.
Yes, ma'am. Right here.
Okay, put car. And just draw an arrow from where you were to where you ended up.
There.
Okay.
To there.
Okay.
And that's where I parked.
Okay, that's where you parked. Okay. You park here, and then, is that when he comes and circles your car?
Yes, ma'am. It might have been closer in between here, these houses.
Okay, well you can move it.
Oh,
Just move it.
right around there.
You might have run around here, okay. We're going to X this one out because it's not where you meant. You meant that you came around here and ended up here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you ended up here, and then, is that when he circles your car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He comes out from where?
I don't know.
Okay, all of a sudden you just notice he's circling your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So he's circling your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you still on the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
The dispatch? Okay. Are you giving them a description or anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where does he go where you lose sight of him again?
He walked back into the darkness here.
He went there? Okay.
And, sorry.
He walks back in here.
Yes, ma'am.
Does he make the turn or does he go?
I didn't.
You don't know. By the time he gets here, you can't see him.
Correct.
Okay. And you're still in your car?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you're watching him walk away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then what happens?
The dispatcher asked me what direction he went on and exactly what address I was at.
And this is when you don't realize what street you're on because you're on the
Correct.
center street and you live on the outside one.
Correct.
Okay. So you're trying to figure out what street you're on. Okay, so you see him go here, and then so what do you do to try to...
I got out of my vehicle to look at this house's address and see if there was a sign there.
Okay,
There wasn't.
okay,
So I walked through the dog walk to see if there was a sign here or an address that I could make out easier.
okay. And then what happens?
The dispatcher asked me if I'm out of my car, and I said yes. And they said, do you know what direction he went in? I said no. And they said, are you following him? And I said, I don't know. I don't know where he went.
Okay. But you continue straight on the sidewalk,
Yes,
go to
ma'am.
this side,
Yes,
okay?
ma'am, all the way through.
And then what happens when you get here? You decide that you still don't know where you're at?
I still didn't know where I was at, but I was able to give the dispatcher a description from the clubhouse. I said they come straight in past the clubhouse, and my car is right here.
Okay.
And
Is your car running, or you've shut it
It's
off?
shut off.
Okay. So you're just parked here. You follow him. It doesn't matter so much. So you walk here, and when you get here, you realize, okay, I'm just going to go back to my car. Is that what happens, or?
no, the dispatcher says, would you like a police officer to still come out? Because I said, I don't know where he went.
Okay.
Because he asked me for what direction they went in,
Okay.
and what road, and I said, I don't know where he went. And they said, well, do you still want an officer to meet you? And I said, yes. And they said, well, where do you want them to meet you? And I said, at my car.
Okay.
So I start walking back towards my car.
Okay. Is this all dark in here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there's no lighting back here anywhere unless it comes from someone's house? Is that
Correct.
how it works? Okay. And is it all dark down here so
Yes,
you can't
ma'am.
see anything down
Unless
here?
there's patio lights on.
Okay, so at what point and where from what bushes does he jump out?
It was somewhere around here.
Did you know is there bushes along this walkway or where are the bushes?
There are hedges around the sides and the back of the buildings.
Okay, so you think it's up here somewhere where the T is, where he jumps
Yes, ma'am.
out? Okay, do you remember you were walking this way, did he jump out in front of you from somewhere or did he come up behind you, do you remember?
I don't recall.
Okay, but he was, from what you guess, he's somewhere hiding at this T with the bush,
Yes, ma'am.
in the bushes when he jumps out. Okay. And then where do you end up when you guys are on the ground and after this is all happening? Where? Do you
He
even know?
punched me in the face and I fell backwards and I don't even know
You
where
just know
I
you're somewhere in this area?
ended up. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when the police took you, they took you
Back out this.
back up this way, okay. Okay. And when that man was standing there with a flashlight, do you remember what building he was from?
No, ma'am.
Do you remember what building you saw when you said you saw somebody?
This one.
You saw somebody over here
Yes,
when you were hollering for help and the
Yes,
guy
ma'am.
says, I'm calling?
Yes,
Okay, this is the building where you see somebody. Okay. Okay, but he jumps out of bushes somewhere in this area.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, what kind of gun was it?
Mine?
Yours.
A Kel type 9mm.
Okay.
Do you think I can have water?
Oh yeah, I'll get you another one. Or you can have soda or coffee or anything.
Water.
Okay.
Thank you.
You don't need to use the restroom yet?
No.
Okay.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you what's been introduced into evidence, I believe without objection, 176. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 176, ma'am?
Yes, this is the Google map I brought Tim that he wrote on.
And is that the Google map that you were using in the last interview with the defendant?
Yes, this is the same map.
Okay. Your Honor, may the court assist us by dimming the lights a little bit? I apologize. Ma'am, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 176. Do you see it there?
Yes,
Okay. And is this the Google map you used in having the defendant describe his actions and where he came into contact with a person we now know as Trayvon Martin?
yes, this is the same
Okay.
map.
All right. And let's go over a few things if we can. I'm pointing to, appears to be a pink right here. What is the significance of that? Does it say car on there?
If it says car, that's where he says his car was when he first noticed Trayvon.
All right. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to blow up part of this Google map so that jurors can see it. Okay. So right here, I am pointing to where it says the word car, that is pink. He's actually writing that in, or are you writing that in, or how does that progress?
He wrote that down, and
Okay.
I may have put the direction of the arrow,
Okay.
showing the direction that he was going.
The defendant was driving? Okay. The next, what appears here is something in pink and an X. What is the significance of that?
That is supposed to indicate where Trayvon was when he first saw him.
Okay. So the defendant is telling you he is driving this way, and he comes into contact and sees Trayvon Martin, the victim, right here where the X is?
Yes, that's where he says he sees him first.
Okay, all right. In terms of using this map, I see what appears to be a line going this way. Tell me the significance of that.
Okay, the line that leaves the car shows the route of the car, and the line that leaves the X shows the route of where he says Trayvon passed him and then went behind the first set of houses there.
Okay.
The houses to the right of the clubhouse, you see three? They're at the top of the T.
Right here?
Yes.
Further down here? Okay. Let's go back, if we could, to right here. Is this what you understood to be the clubhouse area that I'm circling right here?
Yes.
Okay. There appears to be here an X and some lines right here. Do you see that?
Yes, I believe it should say 911. That's where his car went, and
Okay.
he said he called 911 there.
May I approach the witness again? I'm going to give you the actual exhibit, and we have that up there, but just to make sure. So that is actually 911. Sure, I have that. So tell us again the significance of this right here that I'm circling, this part of this exhibit.
Okay, you'll see from the first place he says the car is, there's a line that shows him going there. And then instead of putting car at that location, because he said he remained in his car, we used 911 to show that's where he was when he was in his car and he called 911.
Okay. Now, on this exhibit, are there two lines, one going this way and the other one going the same way, but there are two lines going parallel at that point?
Yes, the X indicates Trayvon Martin, the first X, over all the way to the left.
All the way over here?
And then it's supposed to be a line showing the X stops at the car at some point where he says he looked into the car.
He being Trayvon Martin looked into the defendant's car?
That's what George Zimmerman is explaining happens, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And then when I asked him, draw now a line where you say after Trayvon leaves you, where he ends up when he's out of your sight.
Okay.
And that's the arrow that goes straight and then ends up behind the houses right there.
Okay,
If you go up a little bit that line, he ends up, it's right behind the house where he says that's where he loses sight of him. He follows the street around and goes there.
okay. And that's where the defendant claims that he lost sight of Trayvon Martin?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you also have something here, and I can't make out what that is, but it's pink and it's some kind of writing there. Tell me the significance of that, if you could.
You'll see how the car, where it was 911, leaves, this mic's not acting right, leaves the clubhouse. I asked him to draw where he goes from there. He initially wrote that he stopped there, but then he scribbled that out to change where the car ends up a little bit more forward, where it
Okay.
says car,
Right here?
if that's where it says car.
So he originally
Yes.
had it here, and then it moves here. What happens over here?
The circle means that's where he said Trayvon circled his car.
So where that circle is in the X, that is where the defendant claims that Trayvon Martin came up and circled his car. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what, in terms of the defendant is telling you using this Google map, what he claims occurred after that.
Trayvon leaves that area and goes straight into the T, at the top of the T. He doesn't
Am I
know.
pointing it out here this way, this route?
Yes.
Okay.
He says at the top of the T at the intersect, he doesn't know if Trayvon continued straight or if he went down.
Okay, I'm
Between
going
the houses.
to point this cursor and tell you I'm going red. The defendant's claiming he didn't know if Trayvon Martin went this way or went down this way?
Yes, that was my understanding.
Okay, what else does the defendant then claim?
That he got out of the car to locate a house address so that he could better tell dispatch where he was. This is all on the tape, though, so you can hear exactly what he
Right.
said.
Right, so the defendant is claiming he got out of the vehicle right here to try to get an address so he could tell dispatch where he was at?
Yes.
Okay, what happens to then the defendant? And the reason I'm asking is it appears to be lines going this way. If you could tell us the significance of that.
It's probably just a second line. He says that he goes all the way across the T to the other side.
Okay, stop me if I'm going too far. Does he claim he's going like this,
Yes.
all
Yes.
the way to this street?
Yes.
Okay. What does the defendant claim he occurs when he gets over to the street that circles the whole retreat of Twin Lakes?
I believe that's where he says he lost him. He's telling dispatch he no longer knows where he is.
Okay.
He says that when he was there is when he no longer knew for sure which direction Trayvon had gone
Okay.
and thought maybe he was hiding.
Meaning he didn't know whether Trayvon Martin went this way or whether he went this way right here, one of those two?
Yes.
Okay. What does the defendant then claim at this point?
He discusses with dispatch whether or not the police should still come to the scene, and it's agreed that they will.
Okay. What else does the defendant claim as to what occurred?
He begins to walk back to the vehicle, which would mean he has to go past the intersect of the T again to go
Okay.
back to where he
Am I
parked.
going the right way?
Yes.
Okay. Stop me whenever he says something else happened.
He says it happens at the intersect of the T, a little bit past it.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay. What does the defendant claim happens there?
That Trayvon approaches him. He's not sure exactly where he came from.
Okay. In the interview that you conducted of Mr. Zimmerman, the defendant, he said something, he came out of the bushes or something. Were you trying to, using this Google map, determine or have him point out where it was that he claims the victim came out of?
Right, because in some of the areas you can see bushes, but I couldn't particularly see them in that area, so I was trying to figure out what he was attempting to say.
Okay. What happens then?
He says that's when Trayvon approaches him and said what he said on the tape.
All right.
About,
All right. You have, it appears an X is drawn right here?
that is the location that he said that when he was calling for help and saw somebody at a residence, he indicated that was the area that he had seen the person from a residence that would be located in that area.
Okay. Ma'am, you've conducted an interview, a recorded interview, then you conducted a second interview using the Google map. At this point, then, do you take additional steps regarding your interview of the defendant? Specifically, do you give him paper for him to write out a written statement?
Oh, yes. I had him fill out a statement form.
Thank
I
you,
just
Your Honor.
explained to him as best he could to explain everything he had told me in the interview, to be very detailed as to what he told me and try to put that in writing.
Now, in terms of the written statement, did you actually sit with him and go, okay, this is not right, change this or all that? Or how did that occur? Did you leave him alone, or were you in there with him telling him, you got to write this, you got to write this, or how did that proceed?
No, when I gave him the paperwork to write the statement, I left the room, and when I came back, he was done, and I had him sign them. I didn't read them. And I turned them over to investigators for him.
All right, and when you say you actually gave him paper, approach the witness, Your Honor? You're going to show State's Exhibit 175, that's previously been shown to counsel, and I believe there's no objection.
Yes, thank you.
Let me show you State's Exhibit 175. Do you recognize State's Exhibit 175?
I do. This is the statement that George Zimmerman wrote that night.
Okay.
I witnessed.
And I believe, is that 4 actual pages?
I believe it was 4, but I'll check. Yes, it's 4.
And when you say 4 actual pages, what do you mean by that in terms of, and yet you actually witness, what do? You, every page you kind of write your
Right,
name?
I don't mean that I witnessed him filling these out. I witnessed that he signed, and that is his signature on each page. And they swear to it, that you affirm that everything you wrote in the statement is true, and they say yes, and they sign each one, and that's what I'm witnessing.
Okay. So he actually signed each page?
Yes. And I did as well.
I'm sorry, you did as a witness too?
Yes.
All right, ma'am, and let me do this. I apologize, ma'am. Approach the witness again. Let me leave you the exhibit itself, 175. I gather the pages are numbered in some way, some fashion, at the bottom?
Yes. Down at the bottom it says 1 of 4, so the second should say 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4,
Okay.
as it goes along.
Now, what I'm going to do is blow this up so that jury can see it and get it, just the first part first. Are you getting just, what is up there in the very top?
That's already preset print on the page, and then he just fills out the information it's asking for.
Okay. And that would indicate what? His name?
Name, address, date of birth, social security number, phone number, city, DL number, or driver's license number.
How can I clear it?
Yes.
Ma'am, I'm going to go into the actual written part of the exhibit. First part here. This is his handwriting, the defendant's handwriting, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and if you could go ahead and read what he wrote.
In August of 2011, I can't read with the lights down.
Oh. Can you read it from over there? It's going to test it's an eyesight test.
It's not good.
Okay.
Although I do wear contacts, they're not very helpful sometimes.
Okay. I think jurors can see that, hopefully. Okay, go ahead.
All right, in August of 2011, I don't know what it says there, my something house.
Neighbors?
Okay, my neighbor's house was broken into while she was home with her infant son. The intruders attempted to
Attack?
attack her, and did. However, SPD reported to the scene of the crime, and the robbers fled. My wife saw the intruders running from the home and became scared of the rising crime within our neighborhood. And I and my neighbors formed a neighborhood watch program. We were instructed by SPD to call the non-emergency line if we saw something suspicious, and 911 if we saw a crime in progress.
Okay, let me interrupt you a second. How do I go back and then just go to the second part? Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Tonight I was on my way to the grocery store when I saw a male approximately 5'11" to 6'2", casually walking in the rain, looking into homes. I pulled my vehicle over and called the SPD non-emergency phone number. I told the dispatcher what I witnessed, and the dispatch took note of my location and the suspect. I think it says possibly has fled.
Okay, and now the word suspect, that's his word. Or will you tell him to put certain words to describe the person we now know as Trayvon Martin?
No, I didn't tell him any words to use. I told him to tell me to put in writing what he had already explained to me, and to be as detailed as he could.
Okay. Let me stop you a second. a place for him to sign and a place for you to sign as a witness, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're going to go to page 2, but give me a second to catch up to you. Okay. Page 2, the top part reads the same, he's just got his name, and then I'm going to highlight the first part. If you could, go ahead and read, I apologize.
You want me to begin?
I'm sorry, yes,
Okay.
please.
In a darkened area of the sidewalk, as the dispatcher was asking me for exact location, the suspect emerged from the darkness and circled my vehicle. I could not hear if he said anything. The suspect once again disappeared behind.
Could that be between?
Possibly.
Okay.
Between some of the houses. The dispatcher once again asked me for my exact location, and I could not remember the name of the street. So I got out of my car to look for the street sign. The dispatcher asked for a description and the direction the suspect went. I told the dispatcher.
Hold on one second, sorry, just getting. Okay, go ahead, I apologize.
I told the dispatcher I did not know, but I was out of my vehicle looking for a street sign and direction the suspect went. The dispatcher told me not to follow the suspect and that an officer was en route. And I headed back to my vehicle. When I headed back to my vehicle, it's as I headed back to my vehicle. The suspect emerged from the darkness and said, "You got a problem?" I said, "No." The suspect said, "You do now." I can't figure out what that last word is that you wrote.
All right.
You do now and
Okay,
looked maybe?
okay. All right,
It maybe says and looked.
all right. We're going to move on to page 3, but let me just stop you before you read that, and we're going to highlight, go ahead, the first part. Again, he uses the word suspect to refer to Trayvon Martin. Have you uttered those words, or have you informed him in any way that's the word he's supposed to use to refer to Trayvon Martin?
No.
Thank you. Go ahead, page 3.
It finished off and looked and tried to, I guess he's trying to say I looked and tried to find my phone to dial 911. The suspect punched me in the face. I fell back toward,
You said backwards?
I fell backwards onto my back. The suspect got on top of me. I yelled help several times. The suspect told me, "Shut the fuck up," as I tried to sit up. Right. The suspect grabbed my head and slammed it into the concrete sidewalk several times. I continued to yell help. Each time I attempted to sit up, the suspect slammed my head into the sidewalk.
Let me a second. Hold on, sorry. I'm trying to catch up here. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
My head felt like it was going to explode. I tried to slide out from under the suspect and continue to yell help. As I slid, the suspect covered my mouth and nose and stopped my breathing. At this point, I felt the suspect reach for my now exposed firearm and say, "You gonna die tonight, motherfucker." I understood my firearm.
Could that be unholstered? Or whatever you...
Yes, that would make more sense. Unholstered my firearm in fear of my life. I unholstered my firearm in fear for my life, as he had assumed.
Could that be assured?
You think it says what?
I can't spec
Okay.
whatever. I believe the word is assured, A-S-S-U-R-E-D, but...
As he, I don't know if it's assumed or assured, he was going to kill.
All right, but before you get to page 4, we got to pull it up.
Okay, now I've seen the whole sentence, maybe I can figure out what it says.
Okay.
My life as he assured he was going to kill me,
Okay.
and fired one shot into his torso. The suspect sat back, allowing me to sit up, and said, "You got me." At this point, I slid out from underneath him and got on top of the suspect, holding his hands away from his body. And another...
An onlooker?
Yes, an onlooker appeared and asked me if I was okay. I said no. He said I was calling 911. I said I don't need you to call 911. I already called them. I need you to help me restrain this guy. At this point, SPD officer arrived and asked, "Who shot him?" I said I did, and I placed my hands on top of my head and told the officer, where on my person my firearm was holstered. The officer handcuffed me and disarmed me. The officer then placed me in the back of his vehicle.
And you signed that last page also, like you had the prior
Yes.
4 pages?
All of
Prior
them.
3 pages? Okay. Now, the defendant continuously refers to Trayvon Martin, the person we now know as Trayvon Martin, as a suspect, correct?
He did in the statement.
In that written statement, in the prior statements, he did not. The prior audio statements, he didn't refer to him as a suspect, did he?
No, he did not refer to him as a suspect in anything but this.
Okay, all right. And when police officers are talking about a person they suspect of being a criminal, committing a crime, did they refer to them as suspect?
Yes, we do. If we suspect them of a crime, they're a suspect.
Okay. All right, I don't know if now would be the time to take a recess or...
Time to recess for lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to recess for lunch, and while you're getting your notepads to put face down on the chairs, I'm going to remind you that during the lunch time, you're not to have any discussions amongst yourselves or with anybody else about the case. You're not to read or listen to any radio, television, or newspaper reports about the case. You're not to use any type of electronic device to get on the internet to do independent research about the case, people, places, things, or terminology. And finally, you're not to read or create any emails, text messages, Twitters, tweets, blogs, or social networking pages about the case. Do I have your assurances that you will abide by these instructions? Okay, we'll be back at 1:30. So please fold your notepads down and follow Deputy Jarvis to the jury. Yes. Officer Singleton, you're free to go for lunch and be back at 1:30, but please remember that you're still on the witness stand, so you cannot discuss your testimony with anybody. including the lawyers, and that means what you have testified to or what you will testify to, okay? We'll see you at 1:30. Is there anything else that we need to take up before we recess for lunch? Court is in recess until 1:30.